Barack Obama just stepped back into the political spotlight with a vengeance, and he's going directly after Donald Trump and the Republicans enabling him. In a brand new video with former Attorney General Eric Holder, Obama blasts GOP leaders in Texas, Florida, and Ohio for gerrymandering, rigging congressional maps to dilute the votes of communities of color and lock in power for one party.
Hey everybody, it's Barack, and I am here with my good friend, Attorney General Eric Holder, because we're facing an existential threat to our democracy, and we need your help.
Right now, in states across the country, like Texas and Florida, these extreme conservative politicians are announcing and acting on plans to slice and dice House districts with the goal of preserving their own power while diluting the voting power of communities of color.
They're doing the same thing in Ohio, trying to give one-party control over almost 90% of congressional seats.
Rather than facing their voters at the polls next year, they're trying to silence them instead.
Eric and I started the NDRC to win fights like this. So, if you want your voice to be heard in next year's midterm elections and beyond, help us meet this moment and preserve our democracy.
And here's the kicker. Obama isn't just making a campaign ad. He's delivering a warning that America is teetering dangerously close to the kind of authoritarianism we used to condemn overseas. This comes just recent after Obama's fiery remarks at Hamilton College, where he laid out the hypocrisy in plain English. He said, "Imagine if he had stripped Fox News of its White House credentials. Imagine if he had punished law firms for defending people who opposed his policies. The outrage would have been off the charts. But when Trump does it, silence." And that's the central point here. Obama is reminding us that the guardrails of democracy aren't just being bent, they're being shattered. Trump and his allies are rewriting the rules of fair elections, weaponizing government against critics, and treating the law as a tool for personal revenge.
Imagine if I had done any of this. Let me I just want to be clear about this. Imagine if I had pulled Fox News' credentials from the White House press corps. You're laughing, but no, this is what's happening. Imagine if I'd said to law firms that were representing parties that were upset with policies my administration had initiated, that you will not be allowed into government buildings. We will punish you economically for dissenting from the Affordable Care Act or the Iran deal. We will ferret out students who protest against my policies. It's unimaginable that the same parties that are silent now would have tolerated behavior like that from me, or a whole bunch of my predecessors. So, and I say this not on a partisan basis. This has to do with something more precious, which is, who are we as a country, and what values do we stand for? And now, this is not just an abstraction, and I think this is one of the challenges that we have. And I saw this even before the last election. I think people tend to think, democracy, rule of law, independent judiciary, freedom of the press, that's all abstract stuff because it's not affecting the price of eggs. Well, you know what? It's about to affect the price of eggs. One of the things that has distinguished us in the past has been this basic idea that we are a rules-based society. What that means is that, you know what, I can support one candidate instead of another, and I don't have to worry that the police are going to come harass me or my customers. That's what happens in other places. That's what happens in Russia. We take for granted the idea that we don't have to pay bribes or hire somebody's cousin in order to get a business permit.
Obama's message is clear. If we let this become normal, then America stops being America. Obama and Holder launched the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, specifically to fight battles like this. Because while most people don't think about redistricting maps in their day-to-day lives, these lines decide whether your vote counts equally or whether your community gets carved up so your voice is silenced. And right now in Ohio, Republicans are trying to engineer maps that give them control over 90% of congressional seats in a state that's politically competitive. That's not democracy, that's rigging the game. Obama put it best. We used to be a shining example to the world. Now we risk becoming the cautionary tale. And look, Obama's warnings aren't abstract. They're rooted in Trump's actual behavior, trying to overturn a free and fair election in 2020, deploying federal forces against protesters, threatening universities and law firms for disagreeing with him, and constantly spreading the big lie that the system is rigged even when he loses fair and square. This is exactly what autocrats do overseas: discredit the media, bully institutions, redraw maps, silence critics. And Obama is essentially saying, it can happen here unless we stop it. Obama's Hamilton College remarks cut deep because they expose the double standard. Imagine if I had done this. Imagine if I'd used the military to intimidate Republican-led cities. Imagine if I'd tried to shake down private businesses. We all know what would have happened. The same Republicans who worship Trump today would have screamed dictator if a Democrat had even thought about it. But with Trump, they shrug it off. Some even cheer it on. That's not patriotism. That's cult behavior.
You got countries all around the world where the elections are fixed, and whoever's in charge suppresses and makes it hard for the opposition to compete. And we used to be a shining example to those countries, and people would aspire to the kind of true democracy that America had. And we need to get back to that, because that's not just a Democratic or a Republican idea, that's an American idea. That's what we're fighting for.
Now we've got a guy who tried to overthrow democracy. That's how far the bar has fallen. The truth is, Obama doesn't speak out this directly very often. He usually avoids wading into every political fight, but when he does, it's because the stakes are sky high, and that's where we are. He knows Trump isn't just another Republican opponent. He's a threat to the Constitution, to free elections, to the basic idea that voters should choose their leaders, not the other way around. Obama's comeback is about more than politics. It's about sounding the alarm before it's too late. Let's zoom out. Around the world, democracies are crumbling. Strongmen in Hungary, Turkey, Russia, they all use the same playbook. Undermine elections, attack the media, pack the courts, turn government into a personal weapon. Obama's message is that if we want to remain the shining example, we have to defend democracy at home.